We're having issues with our microphone and clearing its throat or something that sounds like that. So I think the microphones are working for the recording, but it may not be amplifying out to the audience, so we need to be able to speak up so everybody can hear us. Can we recognize former mayors or anything like that? We have it's good to see you.
So I'm just in the peanut gallery now.
I was going to suggest that, but that's I'm glad you brought it up. Okay, I call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and is there a motion to approve the agenda that was sent out to you? Okay, and one of you will be a second. Is that okay? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay. Let's go. Is there any public, Betty, in the audience who'd like to speak to council or to the board on an item that's not on the agenda? I don't see anybody coming up. So in your packet is minutes from the October 12th meeting. Are there any changes? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay. Well, it's time for us to hear from Good News Beverly again. Is that correct? I missed Citizens Advisory Committee. I apologize. Jim was feeling slighted there for a second. Jim, welcome.
That's okay. Thank you. Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. First of all, we, as a CAC, this was a budget workshop for us, and we changed our agenda a little bit. The county had some line item transfers for the West Colorado Avenue project that we felt like might impact the discussions on the budget that were further down on the agenda. So we moved the item for line item transfer issue for West Colorado Avenue up so we could discuss that prior to the budget. And CAC made a positive recommendation on that transfer, and that transfer basically made their portion of the increased project whole from the county's perspective. And they also had a line item transfer that didn't affect Colorado Avenue, that was just moving some cleanup around projects that were near completion and moving that to South Mark Shuffle as well. And so so we moved those up on the agenda.
Okay.
During the budget presentation workshop, the group felt like that in the budget there was bottom line is the city had not had a chance to fully analyze the increased cost on the Colorado Avenue West project, and so there was some discussion around what was going to happen in the next month to make that project whole. And so we kind of had we had a good discussion, but it wasn't a recommendation other than to approve what was being presented during the workshop, because it's not on a final approval of the budget until next month. So we had discussion, and the recommendations were that the city come back with a revised budget submission to cover the increased cost of the bid opening on West Colorado Avenue. And then the approval of the line item transfers increased the county's 2016 carryover amount, and so they would have to come back and revise their budget submission to account for that increased carryover. So we should see a slightly different budget presentation at our next meeting, particularly around that project. During the Colorado Springs contracts, the city submitted several contracts. The first one being, if you look at you'll see on your agenda, the first one was a contract for NV5 for construction management. And that project was originally awarded in 2010 and had not been recompeted, and this would have been the 2017 will be the 7th year with no recompete of that project. And so the CAC approved that budget, but with a strong recommendation to the board that the city be directed to recompete that contract for 2018. It's a little unusual to go 7 years without a recompete of that kind of contract, and they were concerned about whether we're getting the best value at that point without having to do a recompete. So that's our recommendation on that. And the other one, we kind of split the contracts up, and we had abstentions because of CAC members being involved with either the aggregate company, Schmidt Construction, or were involved actually in the Colorado West project. So that's about it for us. That's about it for us.
Okay. Are there any questions for Jim? Is there, I need a motion to accept the CAC report.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Now we go to Good News Beverly.
Good afternoon. I put in front of you the latest financials, and we received the $8,643,000 yesterday. So compared to our monthly budget, we're almost $611,000 ahead, or 7.6%. And year-to-date, we're $3,179,000 ahead, or 4.8%. So we'll be able to have a mid-year budget amendment of quite a bit of additional money if it keeps going like this. So, then on page 2, compared to last year, we've received almost $4.6 million year-to-date ahead of the same figures through September of last year. Then page 3, 4, and 5, just put it in the revenue and expense summary format as far as the revenue goes. And then interest is way ahead of the budget. And part of the reason is because we have more funds in the bank, but part of the reason, too, is that, I don't know if you remember, but the board approved going out for a 3-year CD for $10 million, and that's really made a big difference in our interest revenue versus what I anticipated it to be last year. So are there any questions?
Any questions for Beverly? Okay. All right, good.
Thank you.
Like I said, she's getting a reputation as Good News Beverly. So now a couple months ago, she slipped a little bit, but there was a reason for that. Okay. Let's go to the West Colorado Capital Project line item transfers.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Board of Directors. Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County. I come here to you today not as the El Paso County representative, but really as the project team representative for the West Colorado Avenue project. As many of you know, this has been an important project, and I think is one of the premier projects along with the PPRTA extension. And I've heard many people say that this is probably one of the reasons why the PPRTA extension was successful, because this is one of the premier projects that was really wanted by the community. As many of you know, this Colorado Avenue project was originally identified as no man's land, and it really was originally a CDOT road that was looked at and trying to figure out how to fix it, and looking as a region about how to make this roadway better. And we have done, and this has been going on for quite a long time, and together with the City of Manitou, the City of Colorado Springs, and El Paso County, when the opportunity came around to identify some ramp funding through CDOT to devolve this roadway, we all agreed that that was a good thing, and we made that application through PPACG, identified that roadway, and made the application, and were successful. As part of that devolution from CDOT, the county took over the roadway, and we received $2.6 million. And the county committed, as a follow-through from the devolving of the roadway, to make sure to include that money, instead of using it for maintenance of the roadway, for the capital improvements. So this has been a combined effort for quite some time. That devolving of the roadway came to the county in 2015, and we've been maintaining it ever since. As you know, we did some overlay last year.
You've not just maintained it, you've
Yeah.
improved it.
But we've also had help from the other member entity governments. It has really, truly been a collaborative effort. So this project has been under design since about 2012, when we started the corridor evaluation. And that money was funded through CDOT. It was about $800,000 total, and that brought us through a preliminary design. And about that time, the PPRTA extension was approved, and we finished up the preliminary design with PPRTA funds, and then we continued with the final design. And what I would say is that this project truly has been a collaborative effort with the City of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, Manitou, and CDOT, as well as other stakeholders. The citizens have really been involved and told us what they wanted with this project. And, you know, I don't want to go into all the details of the project, because I know you guys have heard a lot of that, unless you want me to. But essentially, this project is really, truly not only a roadway project, but a revitalization project. We're really going into the community and doing the right thing, providing the roadway improvements, but also undergrounding the utilities, providing the stormwater and stormwater quality that isn't there today, providing pedestrian improvements, providing the bridge that's needed over Fountain Creek, providing the lighting for safety. There's been a lot of crime in that area. And this project will also, from a lot, a real project is to revitalize the community. So as this project is done, we have heard the business community come and say, when this is done, we're just waiting. A lot of businesses are coming in. So from our perspective, from the team's perspective, I know that this project is exciting because we anticipate those businesses to come in and then provide additional sales tax revenue, which will then, in turn, benefit PPRTA. So, as you all know, with PPRTA, as we identified the original budgets for the PPRTA extension, this was a collaborative effort between all the member governments. And as we know from past history, some of those estimates are really good and right on the money, and some of those estimates we do our best job at, because we don't know all the unknowns that are in the area or in the corridor. And this is one project that the estimate was underestimated. And as we look through the project to identify the needs that are out there, this project is one that the budget is definitely in need of increase to accommodate that. So what I will tell you is that that budget shortfall is about $11.9 million. So if you go to page 2 on your item today, I just kind of wanted to go through this with you so that you had a good idea of where we are with this project. So at the bottom, we have a summary of project revenues and expenditures. We have a bit on the construction contract, which is later in your agenda today. And that is actually a best value bid, but it was also the low bid of $19.7 million. The contribution for this project for the electric utility relocation is about $1.6 million. And there's a portion of that that is going, that you don't see here, but it's about another $1.5 million that will be paid through City of Colorado Springs utilities. But the impact for the project is 1.5 through PPRTA. The property acquisition, which is underway, is estimated at about $3.2 million. The construction management and testing contract you approved last month to CH2, and that was about $1.9 million. And then for all of the planning, design services, all of the work for property acquisition and for public outreach, that totals about $4.3 million. So you'll see our total for the entire project is right around $30 million. So going back and how we're looking at funding this, we have CDOT RPP money, and that's the money that I talked about at the very beginning. We received $800,000 from CDOT. The CDOT devolution project, the devolution money that the county received that's in a protected line in the county budget is $2.6 million, so that will go to this project. Our PPRTA original project forecast was $12.178 million, and that was split among the communities of El Paso County, the City of Colorado Springs, and Manitou Springs according to the general formula that was discussed, not according exactly to census data as far as population, but based upon the formula that was agreed to through the entire reauthorization process. And then the PPRTA supplemental funds, those are the funds that we need to make sure that we fund this project wholly, which is about $11.9 million, which I referred to earlier. We are going to get a reimbursement from CSU Water and Sanitary of about $2.6 million. We anticipate through the Manitou URA, they're going to fund some of these improvements, about $500,000. And then through City of Colorado Springs Parks and Trails, they have some interest in this corridor, and we have anticipated about $280,000 from them. So essentially what I'm showing you here is what the project costs are, the total so you have a full picture of what the project costs are, and then how we anticipate to get there. So the delta is really $11.9 million. So in talking with the City of Colorado Springs, we looked at that cost share and had discussed a cost share based upon the current formula that all of the revenues come through. So that $11.9 million will be cost shared about 3.3 with El Paso County, and this is up toward the top of your page, about 8.4 with the City of Colorado Springs, and about 1.23, that's the current formula, through City of Manitou, so about $150,000. So I want to tell you this all so that you understand kind of where we're going with this project. If you look at the third page, this is something that Beverly put together for us so that we can see kind of what the total cost share is looking for. The city and the county have already budgeted much of the money, some of the money for this project. So far we've, if you look at the bottom, we've budgeted 6.6 through the city and 3.428 through the county. And the 3.428 represents all of the county responsibility before we add on the additional delta. So the funds to be budgeted in 2012, at this point, the city has the $2.5 million currently in their budget today that you'll be seeing later today. And we still have an additional $150,000 at some point that the City of Manitou needs to be budgeted. So that kind of takes care of the original commitment through PPRTA. So then we show the additional funded needing with this revision to the overall budget. So you'll see that here. That's what I previously discussed, that 11.9. So what El Paso County is trying to do today is, and we'll talk about it later in the meeting, is we want to go ahead and transfer our remaining portion of our funding that is necessary to make our portion of this project whole. And so that is approximately, we're asking to transfer $3.6 million in our 2016 budget We're proposing to take that from the Beacon Light Road project to cover our additional funds necessary to make the West Colorado Avenue project whole. So that 3.6 is a little bit higher than our required 3.3 because we're covering the additional Manitou share. We want to make sure that we cover that up front and that we are able to make this project as whole as possible. And it is anticipated that the city is going to be looking in their budget over the next 2 years to allocate their share of that deficit of the $8.4 million. I heard just before this meeting from the city that we had discussed previously, as of through last Friday, accommodating $5 million of that transfer that the city was going to look at next year. I understand, and probably city staff can discuss this further if you need their if you need some information from them, because I don't want to speak for the city. But I understood from the Public Works Director that they are committed to this project. They're just trying to look at which project that they want to move around that money for. So in regards to this line item transfer, this is El Paso County's funds. So we're wanting you to approve that today. We can talk about the contract and how that's funded later. If you want me to do that, I can do that now.
Okay, let me, just so everybody understands, the city would like to not do a line item transfer today for the city's portion because we still have some work that we have to do, but we're committed to doing that in 30 days.
Correct.
When it comes back. So all you would be asking for is a line item transfer for the county's specific amount.
Correct. We're just asking for the county's specific amount, and in doing that, we're covering the Manitou's amount. I know that Manitou staff doesn't have a problem with that, but they do want to discuss at a later date how that gets paid back, or if that how that accomplishes. But at this point, you know, that dollar amount is minimal. The county,
Sure.
I feel that we are committed to do this project, and we want to go ahead and transfer our amount.
And certainly the city's committed as well, as you stated. But
Yeah.
we just need to before we make the city's decision, we need to know what the impact is going to be on other projects that we might have. And right now, we don't have the information to make that decision, but we will within 30 days. Before next meeting, we could do that for the city as well.
So I have a suggestion in regards to that, and that really is to address the contract. So that's later in the agenda.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want me to address that now.
Let's
But,
wait. Let's just deal
But this
with it.
item is simply moving some county funding around to make sure that we fund
Okay.
what is our portion.
Is there a motion to approve the El Paso County 2016 line item transfer? Is there a second? Okay. Is there any other discussion? Yes.
Chair, wanted to ask you when it's appropriate, because we do have several members of the public, former members of this board, also in the audience that would like to talk about this project, and I'm not exactly sure if it's into different sections. I think folks showed up now, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because I think it's important that we hear from them on this as well.
Since this is just specifically the line item transfer, I would suggest when we address the contract that would be the proper time.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out, obviously, PPRTA is in a very enviable position. I remember a few years ago, and I haven't been coming to the meetings because I've been in high-speed council governments instead. But, we transferred a lot of dollars, if you're looking down the list, and when you look at what we were getting at that time, I think our budget, when I was still on this board, as a primary, it was around $72 million, and now, my goodness, we're way over that. So that's good for the community, but I think it is important to know that we're in a good position to be able to fund this project. So I would ask for your approval And I would also caution us not to delay this much because we've got a contractor on board and we're ready to go. As you know, utilities was good about approving additional funding, and I just want to make sure that nothing upsets the apple cart at this point where we're moving forward on this.
And I don't think any of us on the city want that to happen either. That because this is a critical project, we just have not had the information as early as you have, and so we still have, the administration still has some questions to be answered. Yes, Ms. Littleton?
Thank you. So I guess I have a question. I don't know if our microphones are working, but
For
for
the
recording.
recording,
Okay.
yes.
So I guess my question is for clarification. So it looks like the funds are there, and to have the funds allocated right now from the city and from the county does not in any way encumber or obligate the city or the county to know right now which projects they're going to modify. I know you stated what ours is going to be for the county, but even if you didn't know at that point in time, we would still, I would say, go ahead, allocate the funding, and then we would go back and discuss how are we going to redo that, what kind of projects are we going to possibly put on hold for a while for us to fulfill our obligation because we're ready to rock and roll on this one. So I guess my question is, if the city has the funding available, and you just need to go back and figure out which projects are not going to be done, I don't know that that needs to possibly hold up any allocation of funds from the city at this point in time. So I guess I'm confused or need some clarification on that.
Okay. Kathleen can answer that.
Kathleen Craigers, City Traffic Engineer. The mayor has asked me to ask for a 30-day delay, simply so that we can discuss some of the details and come up with a sure plan rather than, okay, you're obligated, and then we'll worry about how we're going to actually do it. Yes, we're ready to rock and roll on this project, but the city is ready to rock and roll on all of the projects that we had planned for our budget for this year and next year and the year after. We had those all scheduled as well. So we need to take a careful look at that. We also need to look at how the money is broken out and decisions on how the design goes forward and what the city's position is in that design. So we do want to come to the table and discuss it and take those 30 days to discuss it a little bit more. We really had very little time. The mayor has not had any time to look at this. And while he lets me fling $4 or $5 million around at a time, he gets angry if I fling $8 million and don't discuss it with him. So that's my drawing point.
Well, what's my understanding that it was going to be $8 million today? I thought it was like $5 million today.
I think
Well, no, it's an additional $8 million on top of our original. And so before we are committed to that $8 million, we'd like to sit down and have some discussion on scheduling, where it's going to come from. He'd like to know what city projects are going to be delayed or possibly dropped because of this. And we want to, make sure that we have a secure place at the table when it comes to the design and that type of thing. So we're just asking that we spend the next 30 days to really make sure that we've got everything that we need before we sign a contract with the contractor.
I
okay.
thought the design was already completed. Is that not correct?
We still have some design details to work through. Thanks.
Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. Did you want to finish?
She was going to comment.
Oh,
Can I address? I
I'm
think
looking around.
all this discussion is really pertinent, and that's why it's difficult to bifurcate them. But all this discussion is really pertinent to the contract award, because at this point, what the county is just trying to do is we're trying to move the money for our portion to Colorado Avenue. In regards to the construction contract, and I'll just go into it now since we're there. In regards to the construction contract, what we've done in coordination with the city is to say that construction contract is $19.7 million. Of that, the county has the first year, we have done this before through the PPRTAs, identify funding for each year for that contract. So essentially, the contract, the contractor, and that contract is subject to budget approval. So what we've done is we've identified the years in funding for that contract, and put that into the contract and essentially said the total contract amount is 19.7, but we're limiting each year to a certain dollar amount. So again, if you go back to the item, and it's difficult to bifurcate this item, I know, but if you go back to the item, we've identified that in our cover memo. So I know that the city has some discussion to do internally, but what I would suggest is that we have a bid on the table. That bid is good for 30 days. I don't want to go back out and extend this project further because that will just increase the project budget, and increase the amount. I understand that the city needs some time, and that budget, which we need to address, that $5 million for 2017, is going to be coming back to the board next month anyway.
That's correct.
That's correct. So my suggestion at this point is we would like to award that contract and know, as far as the board, that that contract is subject to the board approving and appropriating those funds in 2017 and then 2018. I wish I had the item in front of me.
And Jennifer, I appreciate
Yeah.
that, and I agree with what you just said. But we have a motion on the table to approve the
Sure.
the counties, and I'd like us to deal with that one. And this is the county is ready and knows how they're going to do this with their line item transfer. I'd like to get that one dealt with.
Agreed.
And then before we approve the budget, we're going to require that the city have a plan for how they're going to do theirs.
Understand.
That's all we're asking.
Okay, yeah, and that's why
Okay.
it's difficult, because we're
Yeah.
talking about the same thing.
Yes, Ms. Littleton?
Yeah, so then I guess I have a question. It kind of feels like, you're going out on a date alone. It's like, we're going to encumber funds, and nobody's going to meet us on the date. And so it's like, why should we encumber funds if we're not going to, have that guarantee of that, the other part of the date showing up? So do we not approve it at this point in time and wait till the city comes out, or do we go ahead and encumber funds?
I'm going to ask,
What my staff
that's
would recommend.
to me, that's the county's decision. You've asked us to approve yours
Okay, well, I'm just
portion of it.
asking staff if
I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think there's a question of whether the city's going to be a part of this. The city needs to identify how they're going to accomplish it before they step forward. You guys have done that. We have not, evidently. So, yes, Sally?
And I realize it's difficult because we're talking about two different things here. It's really related, and I wish we could just have the whole discussion because I think it makes more sense. But, and I don't mean to, as Wayne Williams used to say, ask the obnoxious question, as we all recall, but the city has had a lot of time to look at this. So I just want to point out that this is not something that just happened last week. We have been discussing, we've been at the table months and months, years and years discussing this. And I looked down the list of some of those projects that the city has had that they've come to this board asking for us to actually assist because this is project based. It's not based on, oh, you have, how many people live in Green Mountain Falls? 600, so we'll base it on census data. This is about getting a whole project done where people travel along our roads. No matter which jurisdiction they live in, they travel on those roads. And if I look at Centennial and what came back to this board to ask for additional dollars for Centennial, we have been working together as a region. I do not want the impression that the city doesn't want to come on board with us. We have money in the budget for PPRTA. I think there had been enough time for the city to take a look at that. Obviously, you're listening to your folks from the city, just like we do from the county. But I also am mindful that Manitou Springs has a component in this, and they want some surety that this is going to happen. And I don't want to keep putting this off and then worry about a contractor who is the expectation that we're moving forward this month so we can get final approval next month and get this thing moving. So, again, these are regional projects. It's not a city project or a county project or a Manatee project or Green Mountain Falls project or, Rayma or whatever. This is about us working together on these, and we've been good about moving money around when others needed it, and I would just ask the same from this board. I think we should go ahead and approve this, but as we get into the budget discussion, I think we need to make some decisions. If this is going to happen with every single time we come forward, then we should have gone back and asked some more specific questions on some of the city projects of things that we might have to delay because of moving money around. So I just ask us to think about this. PPRTA was established for regional projects. We each have our maintenance components, but we have to work together on this. And this has been a big regional project, and I kind of am concerned that this happened just today because we've had plenty of notice that this was on the agenda this month.
Okay. I don't disagree with what you're saying. This is doubling the amount of the city, and that's a significant portion for us, and this is not going to delay the project. This is only giving the city opportunity to plan for it. Yes, sir.
I'd have to echo Commissioner Clark's statements. Well, it's a very, very small piece of the pie, $150,000 is 10% of our reserve in management. So it's no chump change for us.
That's right.
And while the county has graciously offered to loan us the money from future funds, we've not decided we're going to take them up on that particular offer. We might choose to fund it a different way. But this is such an important project that's gone on for so long. We're willing to figure out how to do that at a later date and commit to this now. It's, quite frankly, holding up our other projects we have in our URA, of which this is a major component. And the amount of time that's been allocated to figure out how to allocate funds has been extreme, and we really need to get on.
Okay. Well, the motion on the floor is to approve the $3,646,321 line item transfer for the county. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
So that addresses that one. The next is the budget presentation.
Good afternoon, Beverly Esky, PPRTA Finance Director. I'll just go over the budget as a whole, and then each of the Public Works staffs will either go over their portion or ask you if you have any questions from their memo. Some of them are quite detailed and some of them are short, so it shouldn't last too long. But the Citizen Advisory Committee had their workshop last week, and they approved a positive recommendation to the board for the draft 2017 budget, subject to the City of Colorado Springs moving $5 million additional capital funding. So from where they might have it now, it's not an additional allocation of revenue because we have our revenue number set right now, into West Colorado Avenue Joint Project and El Paso County adjusting their carryover amount for West Colorado Avenue Joint Project because they just are getting the $3 million that was just approved in the prior item. So they didn't have that in their carryover in this document, but they will for next month for the budget hearing. So that's what the Citizen Advisory Committee recommended for the board. Now on just briefly, on page 4 is the revenue projection of $89 million, and then each of those items below that are the other revenue projections. There's interest earned on the PPRTA funds, a cost for $260,000 for the Department of Revenue charges us to collect our sales tax. There's an administration cost, and this was $632,000 in the original estimate that I gave you, but the board requested that we increase it for the legislature items and the possible Walmart lawsuit. I mean, it's a lawsuit, but I don't know how much more funding we need. So if those funds are not utilized in those efforts, both at the legislature and during the lawsuit, then those will come back in as to be allocated to transit, maintenance, and capital at the next budget year. So then on page, so 10% goes to transit, 35 to maintenance, and 55 to capital, and then the bottom part of page 4 shows the allocation among the member governments. And then at the bottom of that, transit has an estimated fare box revenue of $3,372,000. So page 5, 6, and 7 compare the 2016 amended budget to the 2017 budget that's being presented today, just so that you can see some of the differences. And then the following 3 pages show the 2017 draft budget with estimated expenditure carryover so that we can get to a figure for appropriation next month. And right now, it is $205 million, because you take the $112.5 million that's a carryover, and then next year's budget, and we get to $205 million. So that's just generally the budget, and page 33 and 34 is the admin budget, and I don't know if anybody has any questions about that.
Okay. Any questions for Beverly?
Okay.
Okay. Let me open it up. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the budget? This is not something we approve today. We'll approve it at our December meeting. But I do want to open it up for citizen discussion. I'm not.
Includes the West Colorado component, correct?
I'm sorry?
That includes the West
Yes, it does.
Now, so now would be the time for folks that are in the audience.
If they would like to do it now, or if they would like to do it when we talk about a contract. Either one. Okay. Then we'll move on. Thank you, Beverly.
So I don't know, Shelley could go first from Manitou Springs, because we
Okay.
started with the smaller ones. I don't think anybody's here from Rama or Green Mountain Falls, thank you. But their page is kind of self-explanatory.
Right. Okay. Let's
Thank
go
you.
with, we're going with Manitou first?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the RTA Board. First of all, I'd like to compliment the RTA staff. Beverly and Rick were both really helpful to me and to the Finance Director of the City of Manitou Springs as we put together this memo representing our proposed 2017 budget. And they just really compliment you on your staff. So thank you guys very much, Beverly and Rick, for your help. You have the letter in your packet, I assume, and I won't read it to you. It's a simple budget when you compare it to that of El Paso County's or the City of Colorado Springs. And I'll just stand for questions.
Is there any questions regarding Manitou's budget? Did a great
Great.
job.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for your comments about our staff. We're very proud of them. They do a
Thank
great
you.
job.
You should be.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to El Paso County next. Thanks, Jennifer. Long time no see.
I know, right? Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer, Mr. Board members. I'll just kind of briefly go through this and kind of direct your attention to the first table on page 26. And so what we tried to do is break out the first round of capital projects budget from the second round so that you could see that very clearly. So the projects that we have some money remaining that we expect to carry over for are 3 projects that we have. The first one being the Meridian Road, and this is the extension from US 24 to Falcon Highway, and it's the realignment of Meridian Road right there. And we have some carryover in that project. And as you might remember, this project is kind of being combined with another project that we have in the extension. So this project is under final design. So we're just carrying over the remaining part of that budget, and that's $334,000. The second one that we're carrying over some money for is Baptist Road widening. And that project is substantially complete, as you know. And by the way, we were able to go up and accept the award on Monday at APWA for that project of the year for the state of Colorado through APWA Colorado, American Public Works Association. And we will be bringing a plaque back. They will make an extra for PPRTA. We will be bringing a plaque back once we receive that. So the reason why we have some carryover in that project is because we're still finalizing some of the work there. We're doing as-built plans, which is required through the PPRTA. We're finishing up the letter of map revision through FEMA, and we still have some permitting requirements through the Army Corps of Engineers for the Preble's Jumping Mouse, and then some final cleanup on that project. And we expect, hopefully, if the vegetation grows and everything is completed, we'll probably close out that project actually in maybe 2019, just because it has some permitting requirements that we have to continue on with.
We probably need to pray for a wet winter, too, to help
Yes.
with that.
Yeah, although, we did a lot of planting in the fall, and there's been a lot of good growth out there.
Good,
So.
good.
And then Mark Shuffle Road, we have some carryover for that, and that project is underway. And so, this is money that's already really pretty much encumbered, but we have some carryover, and that project is ahead of schedule and still on budget. So just that carryover, and that takes care of the first round of capital projects. And then I'll direct your attention to page 27, which is our budget allocation for the PPRTA, the capital projects for the PPRTA extension. And so what we're showing here is our 2017 budget allocation for some of those projects, and then our 2016 carryover. Many of those projects we have in the design phase, and some we haven't started just because we have a lot of work from fire flood recovery, but some of that money has already been allocated to some of those projects. So you look at the left or the rightmost column with the 2017 budget, that includes the anticipated carryover from 2016, and then shows 2017. And then what I would direct your attention to, because this was prepared in June or July prior to our line item transfer just approved, it shows a total carryover for Beacon Light Road is $4.3 million, and that's the one that we'll have to adjust when we come back based upon your approval of that line item transfer, and that will go to West Colorado Avenue. And we had some questions at the PPRTA CAC in regards to West Colorado Avenue, why we don't show any carryover or budget allocation. We need to adjust that and show you what that carryover is, because at this point we will have some, especially with that.
And I'm assuming we'll see that when we see the final budget.
Yes, sir, you're correct. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer on those.
Any questions regarding the county's budget?
And then I'll just,
No,
just
go right ahead.
at the end, the next page is page 28, and we're just showing our 2017 budget allocation for maintenance. As you know, as we move forward with any maintenance contracts, we bring those forth to the board. So you'll see those next year. As you know, we are still working on our maintenance allocation and what projects we're going to be doing for the next year, and this is typical of how we show you our maintenance budget. But that is usually an amount for our pavement overlay program, our sidewalk curb and gutter program replacement, and also sometimes we have some bridge maintenance projects or some traffic signal maintenance projects. But as we have those contracts, we'll be bringing those forth to you
Great.
during next year.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer? Very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to the City of Colorado Springs. Mike, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mike Chavez, City Engineering. I will take questions on the capital portion, but if you have anything regarding transit, I'll have to have
Yeah.
Craig come up and
Your
talk.
buddy's out
Yeah.
there. He's.
And then,
We'll do this in two steps. We'll.
okay. So, if you'll turn to, that would be what is that, 14? Yeah, 14, we have basically our planned project for 2017 on how we're going to allocate them. We've got a lot of, several of our projects are being split between 16 and 17 as far as continuing construction funding. So we've got some money next year for Centennial extension, extension, and also the Centennial reconstruction. Pikes Peak, we pushed that out a little bit, so we'll start construction in 17 also. And then there's, on 17, there's more detailed description of each project, if you have any questions on those.
Okay.
And maintenance is similar to the counties, where we just kind of, our operations group will just divide that as they have the needs for the different sub-projects they have within that.
Okay. Is there any questions for Mike regarding the city's budget? Okay. Let's bring up transit, and Craig will, it would have been really, to make Mike squirm, we should ask him to answer the questions on transit.
Well, then you'd ask me roadway questions, and I couldn't handle
good
those.
point.
So. How do I do the PowerPoint again? See if I can figure it out here. I can't. Okay. I'll start while the PowerPoint's being put together. Craig Blewett with City of Colorado Springs Transit. We, the focus here is the PPRTA budget. What we traditionally do is we show our entire budget and show how the PPRTA budget fits into that full budget. It really puts those PPRTA funds into context of how we're providing service. Perfect. Thank you. And right there. Okay. Just once again, these are the services that we provide. So we do provide the fixed route bus service 7 days a week, 362 days a year. 3 million passenger trips last year. That's the first time we've hit 3 million since 2009. Specialized transit includes two things. One is our ADA service that we're required to provide within 3/4 of a mile of our bus service. Every ride that's required or that's requested, we provide. And then human service transportation is above and beyond ADA requirements, and that's where we contract with Fountain Valley Senior Center, Amblicab, Silver Key, and Community Intersections. And the Metro Rides program is comprised of two components. One is the van pool program, and the second is our support for carpool, school pool, and bicycling encouragement throughout the community. I will talk about maintenance of effort here very soon, and the good news, to cut to the chase, the city's budget does meet the maintenance of effort requirement this year as proposed, and council's working through that process right now.
And we have approved that.
City Council approved that yesterday.
That's right.
First reading and then second reading coming up. And I wanted you to know that this has been a commitment of the city. It is in our strategic plan to meet that maintenance of effort, and once again, I'll point out when I get to that slide. This is where our operating budget comes from, the revenue side, and there's also a capital component I'll show in a minute. But our total operating budget is $22.7 million. The funding, 39% of the funding comes from PPRTA, so that is a big deal. The city's general fund provides 25%, 20% from grants, federal and state grants, and then finally 16% from fare, our passenger fare and advertising, with the predominance of that being our passenger fare. Maintenance of effort levels at $5.7 million. I should point out in that city general fund that the actual general fund maintenance of effort is 5.717. We're actually, with the full general fund of the city, we're proposing to exceed that by $82. Elsewhere in the general fund, this is a line item for transit, but also in the general fund are funds for our utilities costs, cash pickup, as well as our record retention. So that's another $91,215 on top of that line item, with a full city general fund of $5,717,896. So we are ecstatic to say that we are exceeding the maintenance of effort by $82. This is where the operating money goes, 58% to the fixed route system, 22% to our ADA paratransit system, specialized transit that includes both the PPRTA funds as well as the city general fund contribution to that, the van pool program and administration that also includes our utilities costs and legal costs and things like that. On the capital side, this is where the money comes from, predominance from federal grants, We use the PPRTA funding primarily to match the grants, so we see state grants and federal grants there. The expenditure goes to, predominance there goes to rolling stock, so we are, with this funding, we'll be buying buses. We'll be buying 10 buses, 6 of which are replacement buses for our expansion, as well as 13 to 14 paratransit vehicles. On the building and grounds, that includes our efforts for the new downtown station, funding for that, partial funding for that, as well as bus stop improvements and those kinds of things. And IT systems, we are an IT-based system. We are a smart system in terms of how we manage the buses. And ADA improvements, that's primarily access to bus stops. All bus stop riders are pedestrians at either end of their trip, and so the access to those bus stops is very important to successive transit. I should have mentioned that Lan Rao is also here. Lan, of course, is our transit administrator, finance administrator, and she does a 5-year plan, a rolling 5-year plan, financial plan. The blue line is our expenditures, red line are revenues. We are doing a thoughtful, responsible drawdown on our reserves. And you can see that our reserve, which is in that green color, declines, but the gray is our target reserve. So we are spending reserves down, putting the service on the street. And that's a rolling 5 years. We haven't run out of money yet. What this allows us to do is we are projecting to hit that reserve after 5 years. But if there's trouble coming, we see it in advance and we can adjust accordingly. And we did not have a reserve in the past like this. And this reserve should allow us to absorb some of the blows if we were to have a downturn in the economy, and we can maintain our services. This is our proposed PPRTA budget. 2016, the current budget on the left column, 2017, and then the difference between the two. So that really lays out what our proposed budget is and how we're going to use it from a PPRTA standpoint. The next slide, if there are any questions there, shows our combined local budget from the city and PPRTA. You can see that the bottom line there is about, let's see, I'm on the wrong slide here. It shows about 16 million, I think, in operating. Remember, our total operating is higher than that, and the difference is the federal funding that goes to operating. So our total operating budget is $22.7 million. The way you measure how well a transit system is meeting the needs of a community was 3 key metrics: your geographic coverage, your frequency, and span, which is the days of the week you operate and hours of the day. This is where we are today, and this is something that we keep tabs on. The focus the last few years, and this is guided by our 2040 regional transportation plan, has been to improve the service in the existing service area. So we've really been focusing on improving frequency and span, and our policy at this point is to expand geographic area, service area with partnerships, and we are looking at partnerships with the Northern Hospitals as well as University and Pikes Peak Community College. But some of the key comparisons from comparing 2010 to this year, in terms of our revenue service hours, that's the total hours of buses out on the road. That's our supply of buses. We have a 59% increase from 2010 to 2016. And we also had a 19% increase from 2015 to 2016. So we're heading in the right direction. The number of routes with a 30-minute frequency or better during the weekday went from 5 routes in 2010 to 11 in 2016. Again, one of those key metrics. Span in terms of number of evening routes, we went from 0 evening routes to 14 evening routes. We had no operations during the weekends or evenings in 2010. And so we've gone from the number of days operating in a year from 255 to 362 days a year. So that's the difference we've been able to improve over the last 6 years. This just shows our service area. It's kind of tough to see. The next slide's a little bit better, but these are the routes, the color routes, and we go as far north as Research Parkway, as far east as the Powers Boulevard Corridor, south of Security and Widefield, and west to Manitou Springs. And then looking at our frequency map, this is a weekday frequency map. Once again, 11 of our 26 routes operate 30 minutes or better. On this map, blue is 60-minute service, red is 30-minute service, and yellow is 15-minute service. If you focus on the eastern flank there with Academy Boulevard, As I click, the proposal for next year is to improve to 15-minute service on Academy Boulevard. We're going to have a total with PPRTA and other sources, $1 million additional funds.
I can't quite read that. What's the 15-minute, what color?
15-minute service is yellow, the kind of the gold color. And there are 3 corridors. East-west is connecting downtown to the Citadel transfer station. That's along Platt and Boulder. The service we just added this year is the Nevada Avenue corridor. It actually splits in here between Nevada and Weber, but they're 1 block apart, so it's effective 15-minute service between UCCS and South and PC, and blue is 60-minute service. Yeah. Bus comes every hour. Yes. Red is 30 minutes, and then gold is 15 minutes. So what we're proposing next year with additional resources, and we do have a public process to go through, is to provide 15-minute service along the Academy Boulevard corridor. I'll show a slide here in a second, and this just shows our Saturday service. We had just 60-minute service when we first started Saturdays in 2011. We've added some 30-minute service on Saturdays. And then finally, this is the next steps. The map on the right is a product of the 2040 Transportation Plan, which identified our primary transportation or transit corridors. It's really the focus of where we're going with our 15-minute frequent service. So the next steps are, again, we're developing, we've had a multiple hub and spoke system with a variety of transfer stations, downtown being the primary one. We're over superimposing on that some grid with 15-minute corridors. And our focus is on the existing service area currently, capital improvements, new downtown station, which we've talked about, bus storage. As we're adding buses during peak hour, we need additional storage. Vehicle replacement and expansion to maintain a good state of good repair with our transit infrastructure, and pursuing partnerships through the county, PPACG, nonprofits. We are standing up the joint call center among the human service providers starting January 3rd. A partnership with Northern Hospitals, student pass programs through Pikes Peak Community College and UCCS, and corporate sponsorships. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I just want to make a couple of comments on this. The maintenance of effort has been completely restored, and that has been a 2-year effort and it was a prior commitment by Mayor Southers, and I deeply appreciate him doing that. It was important to us to do this. As we've been talking about the northern hospitals, I've been working with the hospitals as well as you in talking with them. Right now, as you know, a week from today, I believe it's the 16th, we're going to break ground on $130 million children's hospital. It's going to have an impact on whether you're a council person or a commissioner. It goes through all of your areas. But if you're in the southeast part of Colorado Springs and you have a child that's going to be in children's hospital in 2018 when it opens, you can't get there. Jay, people from Manitou, they can't get there right now. So we've been starting early on this to try to deal with this because the hospital won't open until 2018. So we figured let's address it now and try to get that dealt with. And we're working closely with the hospitals and trying to work partnerships with that because it's a critical issue as it comes forward to us, and it's going to impact all of our citizens inside and outside the city. Right now, Dennis, you could get there faster from Rama than we could do from other areas. So thank you. Are there any questions that you would have? Yes, Sally?
Greg, how do you do, if you're requested to do essentially surveys to find out how long it takes people to get certain places, and where I'm going is really the citizen service center over in Garden God. How would you do an analysis of that center in terms of improvement in the system to reduce the time it takes for transfers and those kinds of things? Because that is something that, when you think about the number of folks, 4,000 or so people coming in and out of that building every single day.
Right.
I know we did a survey that about 10% of those folks actually come by bus. The rest are all automobiles. studies on that, in terms of trying to get folks there quicker?
We've done a survey. We do a survey every 3 years of our passengers. I'll have to look exactly at the question we asked, but I believe one of the questions was travel time, and how long it takes you to get from point A to point B. So we do have additional data. We will have additional data on that here very soon. I will say that we added a route this year connecting, it's Fillmore going west, it really connects more to VA Clinic, but it also provides access to these routes as well that go up to the Citizen Center. This is one of the God's Road here. The Citizen Center has 2 routes going to it today, and then with this additional route up Fillmore, it's quicker to get there from other parts of the general area. But it is something we're looking at. It does have 30-minute service between the 2 routes. They're both 60-minute routes, but they're offset, so they come every 30 minutes. So there's 30-minute service from the Citizen Services Center to downtown, which is our primary transfer hub point. But we added that additional cross route this year on Fillmore. So it has been something we've been having our eye on, and we're trying to do our best to provide service to it.
Well, and our citizens come from all over.
Absolutely.
We don't exactly know where they're coming from, but for certain, the point was the one-stop shop, but the question is, how long does it take for them to get there?
Sure.
To be convenient for them. So I guess that's my question is, how can we be of more assistance in doing maybe a new and updated survey of how people get there, and then improvements that might need to be made to the bus system individually?
We should talk about that. I think it would be great to actually have a survey of people who enter the building and ask them where they live and how they got there, and then we can use some of that information to make sure that we're optimizing our service. You bet.
And I just think it would be helpful because that's part of wanting the one-stop shop. Everything's there.
Sure. And we had
And once they get there,
Yes.
hopefully don't have to go to different places because it's all building.
Absolutely. We had a great partnership with the county a number of years ago where we located a ticket vending machine inside the county building. It's used both by citizens who go there, but also the social services to give bus passes to folks. And so we've had some good success, and let's keep it up.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. This is an item for discussion. The budget will be brought for our approval December meeting. The capital maintenance and public transportation contract. Let's start with the City of Colorado Springs.
Mike Chavis, City Engineering, we got several contracts for your consideration today. The first one is a change order to extend NV5's work on the program management for the city for $962,000. That is something that I am strongly recommending we continue. We did take the CAC's comments about looking at recompeting that next year, but at this point we're in the middle of too many projects, and the staff they have in there is very involved in projects, and the switch out right now would put us behind quite a bit.
But you would be able to do that next year?
Yeah, we can, yes.
Okay, good.
And item 2 is supply contract for aggregate materials for the operations division for $50,000 with Smith Construction, and also another supply contract for operations for thermoplastic markings for $200,000. And then we have a change order for Global Underground. There was some pipe work, storm sewer, that needed to be replaced under Delmonico Drive before we paved that. It was the corrugated metal that was rusting through. And that was, there was a design done for that, but it was more, I don't want to say, it was more than schematic, but there was just a lot of unknowns that we knew we were going to encounter. And the change order is just to cover some additional items, overages on things like paving, concrete. And then there were some additional structures that had to be rebuilt that originally weren't anticipated, some manholes and inlets. So that is a change order for $119,000. Then the remaining items are just approval of on-call contracts for operations to use as needed for drainage improvements under the road and the right-of-way in conjunction with street maintenance. And again, maintenance contracts used to be, once they were approved, there was really the change orders were just issued. We are changing the way we do a lot of our construction contracts, and so what we're doing is looking at having for RTA funding, a $200,000 limit per task order with a $2 million not to exceed per year on the contracts.
Is there any questions? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Any other discussion? Anybody in the audience like to speak? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Jennifer, I think you're next with El Paso County.
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. Good afternoon again. So today we have two contracts for your consideration. The first one, and both of them are for Colorado Avenue. The first one is a contract amendment with our design engineer, Felsberg, Holton, Ullevig, for about $1.9 million. And this is a contract amendment to fund the remaining professional services that we need from this design engineer. And this is for, finishing up the design. We had 90% design plans when we went out to bid, and they're continuing to finish those up. But finish those up and tighten those up. And then for property acquisition professional services, we are underway with the property acquisition. And this was anticipated to roll to the next portion of the project, so some funds for that as well. And then also for design support based contract. And then also continuing on with our public outreach. There's an allowance in there with the budget. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I can move on to the
information. I'm assuming on the contract with West Colorado, that's subject to budget approval.
on this one, we have current budget,
Yes.
current
Okay.
fundings in the budget, but
Okay.
of course, it's always subject to.
I thought that, I just
Yeah.
wanted to affirm that.
Correct. So the next one is with Wildcat Construction, and thank you, yeah. So my presentation is very different this month from what I had expected with the CAC and presented at the CAC. Because at the CAC, we had heard from the city that they were generally okay with this project. They were agreed to moving forward with that, knowing that they'd have to do some budget adjustments in their 2017 budget that was under, that will go back to the board in December. So I'm a little bit, I don't want to go back into the project. I think I already talked a little bit about that, and many of you know what this project is. But what I would say is that this project truly is what I would call the regional project. It really has all those entities involved. So essentially what we're asking you to do today is approve the $19.7 million contract with Wildcat Construction. And we know we still have some work to do with the city on moving some of their funds around. And in recognition of that, what we did in looking at this in conjunction with the city is look at phasing that funding, knowing that that would be subject to approval. And our contractor is well aware of this and is fully engaged in that and is okay with that. So this is a $19.7 million contract, and how we're funding that is $5 million in 2016, which as a result of the line item budget transfer that you already approved today is funded in 2016. And then subject to future approval of additional funds, and that would be funded in 2017 with $8 million, and then 2018 with $6.7 approximately $6.7 million. And just to read from the contract so that you're aware, this is subject to approval. So financial obligations of the PPRTA payable after the current fiscal year, which is 2016, are contingent upon appropriation or budgeting of funds for those obligations. Should the performance of this contract continue past the current fiscal year, contractor shall not commence any work in the new fiscal year unless contractor is notified by the county in writing that sufficient funds are available for the continuance of the contractor's performance under this contract into the new fiscal year. So I understand and that the city needs a little bit more time to look at their budget and move that around. I know that as of last Friday and even before that, we had done a lot of communication with the city, and they were fine with that. I'm not sure what didn't happen is some of that communication internally to the mayor. In talking with the Public Works Director, they need to just have some time to do that. I think that the way this contract is put together allows for that to occur, and I think, and I would suggest that you could still approve that today while those allocations for future years are figured out. And I think that that's a reasonable approach to this. What I don't want to do is continue it on for months, but know that we would have to ensure that that's funded in 2017 and 2018, however the board chooses to do that.
Okay. Is there any questions? Yes.
Working or not, but I'll just do it anyway. So Jennifer, if we were to approve this today, as it relates to the both the construction contract and the design contract amendment, should we put language in there based on budget appropriations? What makes, I guess I'm looking at what makes you comfortable in us putting the caveat subject to appropriation or something like that?
Well, I think she said that's already in there.
So there would be
Yeah.
nothing precluding
No.
us from passing this.
I don't see any reason. The subject to budget appropriation is what I wanted in there, and she says it's in there. Mhm.
So I just wanted to make sure if we
Okay.
move forward with this,
Yeah.
you're comfortable with that.
Is there any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Well, I know where the second's coming from. I heard her first, so we'll go over here. Okay. Let me open it up to the citizens. Anybody like to speak to this item? Linda, would you like to come forward?
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Slarb. I own a business on West Colorado Avenue. I'm a member of the OWN Board and the Avenue Merchants. Right. And I would just like to impress on you how important that getting this project done, the West Side Avenue Action Plan, is to the West Side and for the economic vitality of everybody over there. This is a tourism corridor as well, and it just looks awful as it is. And I think by doing this plan and getting it approved and getting it started, it seems like, I'm not in the government, I don't know how things work, but it seems like this has been going on forever. So it would really be great if we could get this project underway and get it going. But I'd like to impress on you, it's really important for us to get this done.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to this item? While Kathleen's coming up, Irving Halbert wrote a book about the history of Colorado Springs, and if Halbert Elementary is named after him, he died in the 1930s, but he talks about the first settlement that happened in Colorado Springs. It didn't happen in Old Colorado City. It happened at 31st and Highway 24, where Camp Creek and Fountain Creek come together. So this has been an issue for a long time. So Kathleen?
Thank you, Kathleen Craigers. I just want to reiterate that Mayor Southers would like to ask for a 30-day delay. While this project has been going on for a long time, the bid from the contractor came in roughly a week prior to the CAC meeting, so that slightly less than a week time is all we've had to review that bid and get a thorough discussion of how funding should be laid out and that type of thing, I think we really could stand to take 30 days and work on it further, and the mayor does ask for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Jennifer?
I just want to mention, just so that everybody's clear on the timeline, we received the bids on the 18th. We reviewed them with an evaluation committee, which included city staff, on the 26th. Immediately, knowing what number that we had as far as the delta, we began working with the city. I know that, we have a short time frame here between, September 26th and today, but we've been working very hard, and I think it really just comes down to, I understand that the city needs some additional time to do some internal coordination and discussion with their elected officials, and I believe that, this time in regards to the budget allows for that, so.
Jennifer, is the contract, is the components of the contract good for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
30 days from when the bid was submitted. So the bid was submitted and accepted on September 18th, Dennis? Oh, sorry. What is today? October 18th. October 18th. So I'm sorry. I was off about a month. So essentially that expires in a few days.
And it's my understanding that because of the component that's in there, that subject to the budget, we still have 30 days basically until we approve the budget.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? We do have a motion on the, I didn't see anyone. He is not here at that time. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. Let's move on to the El Paso County capital projects line item transfers. Jennifer, you might as well just stay up there.
I know, right? And I just wanted to say thank you, and we will continue to work with our partners. Again, Colorado Avenue is a regional project, and we are just the lucky ones who get to lead it. So this next item is some line item transfers, and this is kind of a cleanup of some of our projects from the original RTA. And so we're moving some money from projects that are either completed or substantially completed. Some money from County Line Road, Meridian Road, and that's the northerly portion from Woodman to Rex, and that project is completed and has been for a while. Baptist Road West, about $220,000. Again, we're leaving some in the remaining of that project to clean up some final, but we had some savings on that project, and we feel comfortable in moving this amount. And then some remaining monies on Stapleton Road. So those add up all to $803,000. And what we're proposing to do with those monies is move them to the Mark Shuffle project. That is the remaining project that we have under construction. And we anticipate some change orders for that project and to finish up a couple property acquisitions that we have possession and uses on. So essentially we have approval to work on those properties and are working with the property owner on the final remaining dollar agreement for that acquisition. And then also for some unexpected utility relocations that we encountered during the project, we anticipate some additional. So what we don't want to do is go into the pool that the board has established. So hopefully this money will cover any overages that we have for the project. So we will anticipate to move that money over, and we request your approval today.
Okay. Is there any questions for Jennifer? Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak to this item? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to City of Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report.
Mike Chavez, City Engineering, just an informational item. 2 items on the bridge maintenance for Sun Construction. That's the Evans Avenue Bridge replacement. And the first change order is actually water line utility work, which they'll pick up. And then we just, for TLM and RMC, those are just additional items as they're doing bridge maintenance throughout the city.
Thanks, Mike. Is there any questions for Mike? Okay, this is an informational item. Let's go the transit monthly report. Craig? You are getting around very well on that new hip. I mean,
Well, thanks. We've almost had a one-year birthday on that.
How about that?
Just real quickly, again, Craig Blewett with Transit Services. A couple of highlights from your report that's in your agenda. Our local fixed route service had ridership went down by 0.6%, 64%, so just within normal variation year to year. ADA service ridership went up by almost 2% this year compared to last year for September. And van pool program is showing still a reduced service level. We did have some good news. We just added a van and 7 passengers this past week. So you will see an uptick in that, which is good news. Projects, a couple things to highlight. I mentioned our downtown station project. We are looking to relocate our current downtown station. And we've gone through a process where we've identified 3 sites. But all 3 sites are viable and can work for us through the process. We started out with 29 possible sites, went down to 11, from 11 to 5, and 5 to 3. Those 3 sites, just real quickly, 2 are along Nevada Avenue. Both those sites are generally across from the Pioneers Museum. One is on the east side of Nevada between Cucharas and Vermejo. Second site along Nevada is actually along Pueblo Avenue, so we'll be vacating that street right-of-way to accommodate a station. And then finally, the third site is along Colorado Avenue, just east of I-25 between Sierra Madre and Sawatch on the south side. So the next step there is we're going to form a steering committee with those 3 sites, mayor-appointed steering committee, work through those 3 sites with the downtown community and identify a final site location. We're looking to do that by the second quarter of 2017. So that project is moving along very well, and we're continue to be very excited about it. Manitou Springs shuttle service is great news there from Manitou. We were up 30% from the previous year. We've gone up by big chunks year to year. Been very successful. We had ridership over 150,000 trips. And considering the incline was closed starting, was it September 18th? Repairs on August 20th, 1 month before we'd normally stop, our ridership would have been even higher. So it's working out really, really well, and we couldn't be happier with our relationship with Manitou Springs with that project.
Any questions for Craig? Okay. Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's go to the board appointments and administrative actions for 2017.
Good afternoon, Rick Sonnenberg, Pikes Peak RTA Program and Contracts Manager. We have 4 items in this agenda item. First is the board directors are appointed by their member governments for 1-year terms, so board members should pursue reappointment if they so wish from their respective member governments for calendar 2017. And we would appreciate knowing what your boards decide, either through you or from clerks or managers or whomever.
Okay.
Number 2.
And we'd like to have that information by when?
Either the December meeting or the January meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Second is the just heads up that at your January meeting, which is January 11, you will need to select board officers, and that's 3 officers, the chair, vice chair, and the board secretary. And that needs to rotate between city and county, yes. So with Commissioner Heisey being the chair in 2016, then it would need to be a City of Colorado Springs board director in 2017. So just heads up that that election will take place in, yes ma'am.
Just out of curiosity, considering that, knowing that the majority of city council members are up for re-election, what happens if one of them, is elected as chair and then doesn't get re-elected in April? Just out of curiosity.
There's 3 council members. 2 of the council members on this board are at large and not up for
Not up
election.
for election. That would be you.
And Bill Murray.
And Bill Murray. Okay.
Right.
All right.
So if that happened, we would just name a different person.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to know if there was a game plan.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So then at that same January 11th meeting, the directors would need to select their vice chair, and that would be from a county director on the RTA board.
Okay.
And then also select the board secretary. The last item is there are 3 CAC openings, 2 at-large regulars and 1 at-large alternate, and there are 6 applicants for the 3 CAC seats, and the applications are attached. So the request today is that the board or the board's ad hoc subcommittee for the review and recommendation on the appointment of CAC members decide to meet and prepare a recommendation to the board for your December meeting, so you can review the 6 applications for 3 openings.
Is everybody okay with that process? Okay, we'll just go with that process then.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's the end of that item.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next item. It's the City of Colorado Springs Public Works project schedule.
We recently discovered the schedule that's attached to this item in your agenda. It's a 2-week advance notice of road work being proposed and done by 3 entities, the Colorado Springs General Fund, PPRTA, and the new 2C ballot measure funding. And that's what you have attached. So the question is, would the board like to begin receiving this report, this advance notice report, on a regular basis? We presented this to the CAC last week, and they said yes. So the question is, would the board like to receive it?
Yeah, we put this out because of the work that's happening through PPRTA, T2C, as well as our normal work. We find it in the city helpful to know where it's at. So there's no requirement, but if we're just wondering if you would like to receive the information. Okay, well, let's go ahead and send it out then.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Jennifer, I don't believe you're recommending an executive session. Is that correct?
No, I'll go ahead and give a status report.
Let's go to item 12 then, and if you could give us a status report on the litigation.
I'm not sure it's happening. We'll pretend it's working.
It's recording, not projecting.
Okay, fair enough. Since we have a bit of a different group at this meeting than we did the last month, I will recap a bit without getting into anything that we discussed in executive session. At the last meeting, I reported that the court had decided to basically dismiss the case, the Walmart versus PPRTA case, because they decided that Walmart had lack of standing because they weren't a taxpayer because they don't pay the sales tax. So that's what happened before the last meeting. Since then, Walmart has submitted to the court a motion to reconsider that issue, or in the alternative, to allow them leave to amend their complaint to address the standing issue. So those are still pending. They actually just filed today an extension of 2 weeks to continue working on that issue. Our special counsel, Peter Forbes, is working with the DOR attorneys and the Walmart attorneys, and they're working through that. It's really in our everyone's best interest to get a decision on the merits, so that's still out there. We're still working on that. At the last meeting, we also discussed that the court's order in which they dismissed the case for lack of standing included therein a stipulated fact that actually wasn't stipulated to, and that was that by virtue of annexation that the Walmart property was removed from the PPRTA boundaries. That's obviously the whole issue we're fighting about. I think the court, somebody just cut and pasted the wrong thing into the order. So we submitted a motion to amend the order to remove that. I haven't seen it yet, but I understand that the Walmart parties are going to not oppose that. So we haven't gotten an order to that effect yet, but that's also still pending and should be forthcoming soon.
Okay.
So at this point, we're still in the holding pattern, to be continued for next month, but that's the current updates.
Well, let me, Mark and Jay, I don't know if you're as up to date on this. There's a piece of property on South Academy on the west side of I-25. And this is a piece of property that was in the county. It's basically across from Pikes Peak Community College. And the city of Fountain did a flagpole annexation 8 miles north up I-25 and annexed that piece of property in. The issue was we've been collecting PPRTA funds from that area for years, and we did about a $23 million improvement to the highway through there. Well, since Fountain is not a part of PPRTA, they asked to be excluded out, yet, and we said no, that's not acceptable. So that's the nature of that issue. Okay. Any questions for Jennifer? So it's on a hold. Yes, Sally, do you?
No, I just thank you for continuing to represent us. I was up at the legislature last year.
Yes.
To try and pull it because it was in court. We were firm to believe it got killed at that time, but still goes on.
And to be continued, it's still in court.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it has, as we talked about when those of us who went up and testified, that it has a precedent-setting case. If we can create a special district and then based on changes, just opt out at any time, that's not right. And the county, El Paso County citizens voted on this, and then for Fountain to just flagpole in it into that area and then promise something to business that they're going to be able to opt out because they annexed them in, to me, engage the will of voters. So,
Okay. All right. Are there any member announcements? I don't see any, so we're adjourned.
The good guys always wear white hats.